Mob justice on the campus of Berkeley as Ann Coulter is uninvited, barred from speaking, censored by this liberal institution. Here to talk about it with us is the one and only Ann Coulter. Ann, thanks for making time for us. I know you're in high demand.
Yes, you're the only radio interview I'm doing today. I had plans this week, didn't know that this liberal institution, as you call it, is the state of California. This is a public university.
Yeah, but you're going to go.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was invited to speak. I'm an American citizen. This is a public university supported with taxpayer funds. And what they usually do, as you may know, I give a lot of college speeches, and the way they try to shut down college or conservative speakers is by imposing this long series of requirements that are not imposed on liberal speakers, already a violation of the First Amendment. But I just kept saying, okay. The two groups that invited me, one's nonpartisan, one's the college Republicans, and there is a signed contract. It comes to me through YAF. What they usually do is the university step in and say, oh, yeah, okay, a conservative can speak, but you're going to have to pay all this extra money in security fees. And in my case, they said, and you can't speak in the evening. You can only speak when classes are in session in the middle of the day. It has to be wrapped up by, to 3 p.m., I think they said. Wrapped up, finished, done, 3 p.m. Well, everybody's in class. There are no halls available to speak, but I said, okay. And they said only students would be invited, also an expense, and also limiting my audience. I mean, there are a lot of people, when I give college speeches in the neighborhood, in the community who want to come, donors to YAF, Young Americans Foundation. But we'd have to have people checking IDs. And again, contrary to the advice of YAF and contrary to the advice of the student groups, I said, okay. And then they just up and canceled it anyway yesterday morning. What they try to do by piling these requirements on are, as David Horowitz did last week, he said, wait a minute, you've put so many requirements in my speech, there will be 7 people there. You're requiring that we hold it at a hall just off campus. You want it in the middle of the day when kids are in classes. Well, this is a constructive cancellation. No, in my case, there's nothing constructive about it, because with each requirement they came up with, I said, okay. And then they just said, no, we're not going to let you speak.
You literally gave in to all their demands, and yet they're giving in to the hecklers. They're giving in to the protesters and the rioters on a publicly funded university that at one point was, I guess, a leader in the free speech movement. I keep hearing that.
Yes, well, I guess that makes it a little more ironic, but, I mean, any college, and public or private, whether or not they were the leader of the braggarts about free speech. As I've always said, free speech is this is what liberals use to defend pornography and treason, but actual free speech they're not particularly interested in. And this is, I mean, it is a sort of it is a tyranny that's being enforced, where laws are enforced only against people on the right. If I were a liberal speaker and conservatives came out to riot and protest, I promise you the cops wouldn't be told to step down. But what they're doing up in Berkeley, presumably with the connivance of the University of California, which is a pretty powerful institution in this state, by the way, is they're doing what the police did that led to the Rodney King riots. The police are instructed. I mean, we have them on tape from last weekend's riots. Trump supporters are being beaten up, and everybody has these cell phone cameras now, and they'd go up to cops and say, "Why aren't you doing anything? The people are being beaten up right in front of you." And the cops say on tape, "We were told by our chief of police not to do anything, to stand down." So they just stand and watch as windows get smashed, as people are beaten up, but they only do that if what they're protesting is a conservative speaker. They'll enforce the law if it's a liberal speaker. But I was invited to speak, so I'm going to go speak, and we'll see. Maybe they'll arrest me and throw me in the Birmingham jail while this modern-day Bull Connor looks on.
I love it, Ann Coulter. I absolutely love it. Of course, the author of the book, In Trump We Trust, AnnCoulter.com. Like her on Facebook, too. She's got a great Facebook page and Twitter as well. There are so many people cheering you on today for taking the stand that you're taking, because I think a lot of other people, Ann, would just cower and say, all right, I don't want to risk arrest. But, yeah, you might be. They may charge you with trespassing when you show up next week.
Yes. Yes, I'll add it to my damages. In addition to the fact, I mean, look, this isn't a joke. This is damaging to my reputation. I'm a 12-time best-selling author. And the topic of my speech is the subject of my 11th New York Times bestseller, Adios America, which came in number 2 on the list. I mean, for one thing, I love Milo, but I'm not Milo.
Right.
If you're not going to let I don't even know if there's anyone, a living person, with as many New York Times bestsellers as I have. I can't speak. Oh, come on.
And literally the excuse they're using is they can't guarantee your safety and the safety of their buildings.
Yes, well, if they allow the local chief of police to tell his cops to stand down, yeah, no, they're inviting protests against a conservative speaker in response to all of their silly demands designed to limit the audience to come hear me speak, all of which, nonetheless, I agreed to. I requested in return that, number one, Janet Napolitano have a chat with Oakland's Bull Connor and say, please do, enforce the law. Please do your job. Number one. And number two, that Berkeley say any students caught engaging in mayhem, violence, or trying to prevent a speaker from speaking will be expelled. It's a very simple point. If they want free speech, and they claim they want free speech, but they can do nothing about the mobs, the rioters, these violent animals. If they want free speech, they can have it. So, let's not pretend that they're doing everything they can. No, those 2 steps I requested, ask the cops to do their job, expel any students who are violently interfering with my exercise of my First Amendment rights.
Right. You have the First Amendment right to speak. The group has the First Amendment right to invite you to speak and have their ideas debated in the marketplace. And if they can't provide security, the answer is not to shut down the First Amendment. It's to call for backup. But they refuse to do that because this is just an excuse. The public safety thing is completely an excuse.
Yes, and I do want to stress here that they don't need to call in for backup. They need to have the local police chief, again, do his job.
Right.
It's not, well, we'll bring in somebody to do your job because you won't do it. How about, the taxpayers are paying your salary. When people are right in front of you beating up someone who's come to hear a speech or come to speak themselves, or smashing windows, don't instruct your cops to stand there with their arms folded. And these poor cops, by and large, I mean, I've had a lot of encounters with them, a lot of time with them at lots of college speeches, and your line cop, they would like speech to go on. They would like to do their jobs. It's all coming from the Bull Connor at the top.
Yeah, those cops in the video, Ann Coulter, they looked incredibly frustrated that they had to just sit there while all this was going on. Incredibly frustrated because they become law enforcement officers to enforce the law, not to sit there as the violent protesters, the rioters take over the place. And Berkeley's giving it a mob justice here, which is terrifying for all of us. And I watch as these supposedly liberal publications like Mother Jones and others cheer on Berkeley for censoring you and your ideas.
Oh, that's interesting because I had plans yesterday. I had plans today. I haven't had a lot of time to review the response, but I do read my email or try to read most of it. And I mean, it isn't that surprising to me. In fact, I was thinking of calling Jerry Brown yesterday. A real liberal is appalled by this, and plenty of people at the New York Times. I mean, Robert Reich, who works for the Clinton administration and Obama, I think, he's a professor at Berkeley, and he said this is appalling. Lots of left.
Jonathan Turley. I mean, he's not exactly a conservative, and he's been out there defending you. Berkeley cancels Coulter's speech. Coulter vows to defy university. He's on your side. I mean, anybody who's a free speech advocate, Ann, has to be on your side here.
Yes, including, like I say, lots of lefties who are saying, don't agree with your politics, but this is really embarrassing and appalling.
All right, so next week you show up on campus at Berkeley. You're just going to walk on?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking maybe Janet Napolitano's office would be a good place to give my speech.
She's, of course, is the president of...
The chancellor of the University of California school system, which, like I say, I mean, it's huge in California. That's Berkeley, UCLA, USC, all of the University of California, San Jose, and so on and so forth. It's an enormous and very expensive taxpayer-supported institution in California.
So do it right outside her office. Now, do you have people that are going to be there to protect you? Because I do worry about your safety.
Yes, I'm sure I will.
I'll come and be one of your bodyguards.
That would be excellent.
I mean, really, I think a lot of people should show up at Berkeley next week when you walk on the campus and side with you and walk arm in arm with you, just like any other person who's been oppressed and having their ideas debated in the marketplace.
Yes, it is really. I mean, there are so many laws being violated here, particularly, I mean, directly already, obviously, by taxpayer-funded and, by the way, federal grant-supported University of California. The feds could step in here too. They could nationalize the National Guard. The National Guard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a citizen exercising constitutional rights. You cannot conspire to deprive a person of those rights. When you throw in these rioters wearing masks, it's illegal. It's been illegal for hundreds of years to conspire to deprive someone's civil rights. Hold on a second.
Ann Coulter's with us, by the way, on Talk Radio 1210 WPHA, The Zeoli Show, and, of course, best-selling author.
Sorry about that. I'm
That's
about
okay.
to pre-tape Hannity, and since I'm on the line with you, the doorman had to come tell me.
No problem at all. I'm honored to be the only radio interview you're doing today. I love you, and I'm just so honored.
I love you, and thank you. It's nice to talk to you, and I think you should come out. It's next Thursday. I'm not sure if I'll still do it in the daytime now that I don't have to abide by the rest of their requirements. They've just banned me. I think it might be at a slightly more reasonable time, but I'm not sure about that. It'll definitely be next Thursday.
All right, good. Well, I'm proud of you that you're going in, Coulter. And you know what? You should call Governor Jerry Brown. You should insist that he sends the National Guard to protect your civil rights. And then if that doesn't happen, you should call the White House and demand that President Trump, who you have supported vigorously and writing a best-selling book called In Trump We Trust, that he federalize the National Guard to protect your civil rights and your First Amendment rights.
Boy, I'm going to have to write a good speech this weekend.
AnnCoulter.com. Find her, love her, follow her. Thanks, Ann.
Good to talk to you, Rich. Bye-bye.
Take care.